What's up guys, if you newly got a Sony Google TV or just any Sony TV at all, even if you've had it for a while, in this video I'll be taking you through the best picture settings for your Sony TV to get the most out of the TV. Trust me, these picture settings are actually going to give you the best cinematic experience while watching on your Sony Google TV or just any Sony TV at all. Okay, so over here is my Sony Google TV 4K, and before I proceed to show you all of the picture settings you have to make on your Sony Google TV, I highly recommend you go ahead and play up any high quality video from your Sony TV so you can clearly see the changes and picture quality difference, as I'll be showing you all of the changes you need to make from the picture settings of your Sony Google TV. And in my case over here, I have a static image so I can clearly see all of the changes I am making. Now first things first, you want to open up the menu on your Sony TV from the bottom over here, and quickly you want to head over to the picture mode. Make sure that picture mode is set to standard, except if you're watching movies or certain kind of cinematic content, then you can just go ahead and set it to cinema over here. If that is not the case, make sure that your picture mode is always set to standard. Also, if you have any HDMI device connected to your Sony TV, then make sure you set the auto picture mode to off. Now you want to head over to the picture settings over here. Go ahead and select that. Now from over here, first things first, you want to head over to brightness, and basically if you're viewing SDR content, then you want to make sure that you adjust the brightness based on your surroundings. But if you're watching HDR content, then make sure that brightness is set to max. Just after that, over here we have contrast, and you always want to make sure that contrast is set to 80 or around that figure, because if you increase it too much or reduce it too much, you might be losing details on the picture or video you're watching on your Sony TV. Now if you scroll down, over here we have gamma, and increasing it somehow increases the brightness of the image or content you're watching. Also, reducing it actually makes the image or content you're watching darker. So you want to go ahead and adjust it according to your need. If you scroll down, also we have the black level over here, and it should actually be set to 50 by default, which is equals to 0. You should just go ahead and keep the black level as it is. Also at the bottom over here we have the black adjust, and basically what this does is that it makes the dark side of the picture darker and the bright side of the picture brighter. And because of that, you want to make sure that this is actually turned off. So make sure it is turned off, and once it is turned off, at the bottom we also have the advanced contrast enhancer, and again this is also automatic. It's actually just adjusts the contrast of your picture or your video, which will definitely override all of the other settings we have made initially. So you want to just make sure this is actually turned off. Now next, if we move over to the color settings over here and then just open up this, you're going to see that here we have color and hue, and usually you want to leave this as it is, exactly as it is over here. But if you want a more vivid color, you can go ahead and adjust it a little bit higher if you want a more vivid color on your Sony TV. As you can see, mine is actually set to 70. By default, it should actually be set to 60, except if you want a more vivid color, then you can just go ahead and set it to 70. Now you want to scroll down to color temperature. The best option to choose from over here is just the expert 1 or the expert 2. Sometimes if you go ahead to choose anything between warm and neutral, the blue on the TV may not be so blue, and certain colors may not be exactly represented. So you just want to make sure you set it to expert 1 or expert 2 from over here. Now lastly, if you come over to the live color option over here, this is also adjusted automatically. So you want to set it to low or just completely turn it off. Moving over to the next option, which is the clarity option over here. If you go ahead to open this up, we have a couple of options. First, we have sharpness. Increasing the sharpness will automatically result to the artificial sharpening of the image or content you're watching, and also reducing it drastically will also result in artificial smoothing of the content you're watching. So usually you want to just make sure that this is left at medium, that is 60, which is basically what is recommended by the TV. Also, if you scroll over here, we have the reality creation. Again, this is actually an automatic feature, and basically what it does is to automatically sharpen the image you're watching. So if you have contents that are not of very good quality, it automatically sharpens it, such as pixelated or 720p content. This will actually help to use AI to upscale the image or content so that you can watch it properly on your Sony TV. And except you're watching that kind of content and you want it to do its thing, I usually recommend you go ahead and just turn this off. Also, if you scroll down to the noise reduction option over here, now basically for this option, if you're watching contents that are grainy, there is just a lot of noise on your contents, then you can go ahead and try to turn it to high and see if it actually helps. Other than that, you want to make sure that this is actually turned off, or you can just make sure it is set to low. And the same thing actually goes for the digital noise reduction as well. You want to make sure it is turned on except you're watching noisy content or content with lots of grain. Now for the next option, we have motion over here, and if you open this up, over here we have motion flow. And basically what this does is that it helps to smoothen content that has very poor refresh rate. For you to clearly see the changes in this, you can try to play a video on your Sony TV and then just adjust the motion flow, and you're going to see how it will automatically and drastically adjust the refresh rate of the content you're watching. Usually I'll recommend you turn this off, so go ahead and turn it off except you're watching content that actually has bad refresh rate on your Sony TV. Now, just after that, at the bottom, we also have what is called the film mode. You want to make sure you turn it off because sometimes it actually causes the content or image you're watching on your Sony TV blurry. Finally, over here, we have the video signal. And for this, you want to connect a HDMI device to be able to see the settings you can actually adjust from over here. Make sure you leave everything exactly as they are, except for the HDMI video range. If you cannot decide which option is best, you can just make sure it is set to auto. You can go ahead and leave every other settings from over here exactly as they are. The last thing to keep in mind is that you should actually adjust these settings for all of the input sources on your Sony TV. If you have different HDMI devices, then you also want to make sure you adjust the settings for the different HDMI device connected to your Sony TV. Now, once you're done, you can go ahead and start viewing content on your Sony TV at the best possible picture quality. If this was helpful, please make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more interesting tech tips like this one.